All right. Good morning. Welcome to the second session of Saturday. This is the session you're in. Know yourself, how it took us 8 years to figure it out. And by yourself, we really mean your organization, the place you work at. This session is going to be very touchy-feely. There isn't going to be any mention of code or extending classes or anything technical. It's really going to be about being human, about ourselves, because that's what we know, and about how we've resolved some of our own issues of the last year and a half. And we're hopeful that it will help you as well, and that you will be able to get something out of it so that you can make changes and improvements in your own lives, at work, at home maybe even. So I'm Ivan Stegic. I founded TEN7 in 2007 in my basement in Richfield, Minnesota. I represent TEN7 as a full-service interactive strategy and web development firm, and we focus on Drupal. We have a team of 7 amazing humans that we spend our days with, and some of them are here even. Some former members are here as well. I've kind of been responsible for everything from writing code to managing projects to testing sites and browsers. But now I'm mostly concerned with the people's happiness. Whoever I work with, I'm mostly concerned with them being happy. That's kind of my driving force. I still do everything I possibly can when needed.
I'm Eric. When we were creating this presentation, I realized that I'm going to be the least knowledgeable person in this building about code. That includes everybody from 11-year-olds to people that are even a little bit older than that. I work for a firm called Employee Strategies. We were founded 10 years ago, so 2006. So we're at about the same years of history, and we work with companies to help them create great workplaces and get great results. And so I was honored to get to work with Ivan on this project, and I'm really excited to share a story with you today.
And I've often referred to Employee Strategies as a HR company. I stopped doing that a few months ago. They're human consultants. That's kind of how I think of them as. So they've been great in helping us as an organization. And the next slide is mine. And many of you may know who this gentleman is.
Dog meat.
Oh, I do have to warn you, there are some references to Game of Thrones here, and there might be spoilers as well. So if you're not caught up, we apologize for anything that we may do to your viewing pleasure. So I wanted to start with a client pain story. And I'm sure you've all had this client, and the prototypical client pain person I thought, and Eric thought, would be best represented by Ramsey Bolton. You kind of take them on because you want to improve their situation, you want to change their worldview because you know that they've got the wrong worldview. You take them on maybe because you want to do good in the world. Sometimes you might take them on because you think you can change them. You could also be taking them on because they've had a bad experience with another agency in the past, through no fault of their own, and you kind of want to represent the agencies that we are actually not bad people with flaws that cause bad things to happen, and so you kind of want to save that representation. You also might take them on because it's been slow and you don't have anything for your team to do. Or you might have a sales team or a salesperson that is just trying to fill a quota, and you end up with this client and through no fault of your own. Your client might have unreasonable demands. They might have unreasonable timelines. They may or may not pay you for what you're doing. If they pay you, they may not be on time. They might call you any time of the day or night. including nights and weekends. If there were cell phones around, I'm sure Ramsey would take advantage of that. They may just be mean. and either not realize they're mean, or worse, know that they're mean, and are specifically abusing your kindness and your generosity. So imagine what this is like for a small agency of 5 or 7 people. It has the potential to cause a great deal of strife. And if you don't have a compass guiding you, if you don't know what your values are, you're going to experience pain points. At least we did. So I guess the question is, when do you jump? Do you jump? How do you know where that line is? Like, is your line different than my line? Is part of your team already past that line? Some of the team isn't? Do you jump at all, or do you go back to them? What do you do if you don't have a compass? How do you answer these questions? And I don't think we had that a year and a half, 2 years ago. And so that was the genesis of this talk. If you don't have a line, you can let anyone in. If you have a line and you know what that line is, you could potentially avoid making that mistake. I put this young baseball player in this slide because he's standing within the on-deck circle. He knows what his responsibilities there are. He knows he's practicing for the next at-bat. It's super focused. He knows what he represents. He's representing his team. And the perimeter around him is keeping distractions and other things out. So it's good for you as a human to probably have these boundaries. It's also equally good, we've experienced, to have these boundaries for you as an organization. So for the rest of the session, we're going to go through kind of the journey of what happened with Ramsey Bolton, with our version of Ramsey Bolton, what that started for us, and how we got to some realizations, our why statement, our values, and how the journey is important and how you can take that on as well. I just wanted to say I was really surprised by how long it took us to get here. I mean, 8 years is a long time for us to not know who we are and what we stand for. A lot of that time, we weren't the same size we were. We were 1 person, or 2 people, or 3 people. And so sometimes it didn't really matter. We were just trying to get contracts in, projects in, working on those things. It doesn't have to take that long for you. From the initial identification of what we knew was a problem, through until defining what our why statement is, what our values are, that was about a year. And we actually have some data to show about how things changed. So I'm excited about showing that. So the very beginning of the story is an email I sent to Jay Forrest, Eric's boss, right? Jay's the principal and founder of Employee Strategies. We have a client that has had a life event. The life event is completely personal. It is so personal that it gets brought into our business transaction and our business relationship with them. I literally did not know what to do. I talked to our project manager. She did not know what to do either. We had some discussions internally. Everything we tried with this client in the past had failed. And our approach was, well, my thought was, I talked to my wife. She suggested, you should talk to Jay. I'm like, yeah, I should talk to Jay. This is obvious. So I sent Jay an email. I need help. Please help us. We feel like we're being abused. I'd love a personal meeting with you. I know you'll have some sound advice for us. So we have a great meeting. He gives us some great advice. But that's my inflection point. It's my identification of when we started to change to try to figure out exactly who we are. This was back in October of 2014. So it's been a year and a half. And then, we resolved that minor issue. We keep working, we keep doing stuff. And then in kind of the end of Q1, beginning of Q2 of 2015, we're just absolutely swamped with work. We are doing all the things. We have too much work. We find ourselves in a position of having too much to do and not enough people to do all the things. This results in numerous factors, right? So it resulted from numerous factors. We said yes when we maybe shouldn't have said yes. We said yes, and then circumstances beyond our control occurred and changed the initial scope that we thought these projects were going to have. We couldn't control those. We said yes, or I said yes, because we really wanted to help clients who needed it. And my last bullet is me saying yes way too much. And I think we identified that as a major problem. I was really too eager to help people, and that affected us internally. So we started out with this external conflict, and we effectively had internal conflict as a result. There was so that was all the things in April, and then kind of internal conflict after April in the summer of last year. And the internal conflict is almost like the Battle of the Bastards that was in Game of Thrones. Kind of this circle of unhappiness and just everything is really hard. So unhappiness breeds more unhappiness. The circle's kind of closing in on you. You might not know that it's happening. Luckily, we have a mechanism that we were able to detect what was going on. And by that I mean we have regular one-on-ones every month that we never miss. And the one-on-ones are personal time that every employee has with me, where I can the idea is to be able to keep a pulse of what's going on in the company. And I see Todd there. I took to heart something you said about one-on-ones when you were here. I think it was last year or maybe the year before. And that was, don't ask how it's going, because you're always going to get the answer, it's going great. And so I stopped doing that, I think last year, right before we actually had this issue. And I started asking the question, what's your greatest challenge been over the last month? What's your greatest success been over the last month? And those two questions are always follow-ups to, do you have an agenda? What are we talking about this month? You have 30 minutes, we should be dealing with whatever you think we should be dealing with. And those two questions identified the fact that there were issues in the company that people were not able to share with their colleagues. And it was clear to me that we needed to talk to someone to resolve those issues internally. And so it was a matter of, so that was July of last year, so less than a year ago. It was a matter of me accepting that we had an issue and then seeking help. So I was lucky enough to have Jay again and Eric. I gave him a call. We met in their office, kind of described what was going on, and decided to try something. And then if that didn't work, we'd adjust. And it was very agile-like, right? We're going to try something. We have this set of tools in our toolkit. We're going to try something. We'll see if it works. We'll see how it works, and then we'll adjust and try something else if it doesn't. So it's really consistent with agile, which was really great for me. I thought that was a really nice commonality. So how do we get to a fix? The first thing we wanted to do, that we were recommended to do, was to have a workshop. Professionally facilitated workshop. You don't want to do this on your own. You don't want to try to figure it out on your own. There are people out there who do human consulting, who know what all the tools and the tricks are. You should be doing this with someone else. So Eric and Jay and I planned a series of workshops. We kind of knew what the first one was about. We had an idea what the second or the third one might be about, depending on how the first one turned out. And workshop slide. And so this leads into Eric and the first workshop, which was professionally led. And why don't you talk about that?
Yeah,
Because you know about more.
what I love about the previous slide is you look at this workshop, and it looks like my dad's workshop for starters. It looks like chaos from the outside, but my dad knows where everything is in that workshop. He knows where all the tools are. He knows which ones will help him with whatever problem, design problem, structural problem, that my mom has identified for him to fix. So it's all there. There's a little bit of chaos, but there is a method to the madness. And so I try to help organizations, teams like TEN7, figure out which tools we need to leverage. And there were two things we essentially did first when we decided to get together. First, let me just say this. One thing I noticed as soon as I met with Yvonne, and then I met the team, was they were like this victory baby, this victory meme. They had resolve. They really cared. There was passion. There was a sense of we can do this. We know we can figure this out. And that kind of resolve really sets up the ability to do great things. And so as a team, without that, this work might not have been so successful. But they were resolved to make it better. And it was something that I so appreciated. So what did we do? We deployed 2 assessments. As in your work, you always want to understand the problem before you start working on it or trying to solve it. So we deployed 2 assessments. One was an assessment about each person individually. Ask them some questions about how they prefer to work, what they believe is most effective, what might be challenging for them or not challenging for them. So they were assessing themselves in one of the assessments. The other assessment was a team assessment. What is working for us and what isn't working for us? How effective do we do at engaging in conflict? How committed are we to our team goals? Are we focused enough on results? Are we comfortable, or do we call each other out? Do we hold each other accountable? Do we help each other? So questions like that to get at how is the team doing? So what's the health? Kind of like when you go to a doctor, you get a physical and it gives you some indicators of where you might have some challenges. So you ready to see what the cholesterol score was and all of that? And I should say it uses a very common sort of simple framework. Red, yellow, green. And I think the great news is there was no red to deal with. There was no emergency issues where we didn't have to have surgery. In this case, everything though, there was nothing green. And
So mostly mediocre.
Yeah, right in the middle. It's not like we're desperate, but there was pain. There was certainly pain. There was indicators that if we don't do something, we're not going to be able to achieve victory like that victory baby. To walk you through what we looked for and what we talked about in our work together, any healthy team, any effective team, the first thing you look for is, do we trust each other? And it's really easy to say, yeah, I trust you, you trust me. But do I trust you enough to say and put myself out there and say, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing right now. Or to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, I screwed that up. Or do I trust you enough to be able to say that I need help? I need help, I'm overwhelmed, or I'm overloaded. To be able to say that to your teammates, that's a vulnerability based trust, where we're willing to put ourselves out there at the risk of looking foolish, and it's for the good of the team. So we start there. The second thing that great teams do, the most effective teams do, is they engage in productive conflict. Because they can trust each other, they're able to say, hey, I think that's not a great idea. Or I think that's a poor idea. And they can take that risk because they know that that they're able to trust each other genuinely. Because they have that productive conflict, they're able to commit to whatever plans they put in place, to whatever actions they put in place. They'll resolve the issues. They'll work through them. But without having that productive conflict and hashing it out and getting things on the table, you can't get there. And then they hold each other accountable. They say, hey, how can I help you achieve that? You said you were going to get there. It looks like you're struggling. How can I help you? But what do you need from me? So they have a level of accountability that is built on their commitment, their ability to have productive conflict, and the great trust. And then the best teams also focus on the results. Like, are we getting the results for our clients that we set out for? So these 5 factors are what we assessed. And as you see, there was no emergency issues here, but it wasn't where Yvonne and the team wanted to be. So that was number 1. I should also say that we wanted this to be a very interactive presentation. So if you have questions, you should just throw them out at us.
Yeah.
But it sounded like when you described it, it was a one-way trust factor. That I trust that I can tell you screwed up. But then it also is the other way around as well. You trust me that you can tell me that I screwed up.
Yeah.
Either as an employer or an employee or whatever the case may be, correct?
Yeah. This measures the team's total score. So this wasn't just Yvonne's trust with the team or the team's trust in Yvonne. It was the questions that are asked here about how do we trust each other. Mm-hmm. Great question. Okay. So I mentioned there was a second assessment.
Yep.
And it's something called, we use the DISC assessment, but this is team members assessing themselves and how I prefer to work. So now what I want you to imagine is in this room, so I want you to sort of plot along with me and you can get a little bit of your own assessment. But imagine right down the center of this room, there is a line, and you get to go stand anywhere in this room. Now don't actually get up and stand because it'll really screw up the audio, I imagine. But way down there in the back by Lex, we have people who they really prefer to plan. They're more cautious. They're reflective. They're asking the questions like, are we going too fast? Maybe we should slow down and make sure we have all our ducks in a row before we move forward. Way down, over there's people like that. Or are you a person that's, over here, where you're more of a, hey, let's get it started. Let's get the ball rolling. Let's get going. Why do we need all these plans anyways? Why do we need to think about this? We can figure it out as we go. More action-oriented. So maybe you're more planning, maybe you're more action, maybe you're somewhere in the middle. Okay, so that's one way. Now, there's another line to sort of assess yourself on, and that's from this side of the room over to this side of the room. Are you more, if you're over here, you're a person that when you see something, you don't take it at face value. You question it. You wonder, can I trust this? Is the data right? Do we have enough data? How do we know? How do we know that's the right thing to do? Or how do we know we're thinking about this in the right way? So maybe you're more skeptical, more questioning. Or you're a person who is more over there, like, it probably will work out. If we get the right people together, we'll fix this. Even if we make a couple mistakes, that's okay. Maybe you're more accepting of ideas and a little bit maybe more warm towards new and different. So you might be somewhere on that continuum. So now, if you where those lines intersect are where you would be plotted on this assessment. Okay, you might be sort of if you're in the questioning and skeptical and fast-paced, sort of outgoing, action-oriented group, you'd be over in this part of the room here. You'd be a dominant personality type. So you're a person who you wake up in the morning, you say, oh boy, can't wait to get to my computer. I can't wait to get to work because there are all sorts of problems to solve. I can't wait. There's a lot of challenges in front of me. I'm going to knock. And before breakfast, you already have a number of things on your action list ticked off. You might be a person more over here in this part of the room. you're an influencer. When you wake up in the morning, you're thinking, oh boy, I can't wait to get to work because there's all sorts of awesome people that I'm going to see today. I can't wait to talk to so-and-so. I'm going to have coffee with them. After that, I'm working on this project and this team, and we're going to have our sprint meeting. So you might be really excited about those aspects of work. You might be an I influencer style. Back there in the back corner of the room, you might be a steady personality type. Steadies, they're really, when they wake up in the morning, they're thinking about, oh boy, we got to make a lot of changes, and I'm really worried about the pace of change and the impact it's going to have on the people here. Are we going too fast? Are we trying to take on too much? Have we really thought about how this is going to impact our customers or the team, other stakeholders? And then you've got these C conscientious styles over in this part of the room here. The C's, the conscientious styles, they're thinking about, do we have enough information? Have we thought of the plans? Do we have all our ducks in a row? I think we should double check it. So that's the way we assessed it. And as the team learned a little bit more about itself, what it came to understand is that we have different strengths. We have different things that we're all good at, and no one person should stay in their box. We all have to accommodate and adjust our styles in working with each other. So it was a great thing to watch the team learn. I also looked at their customers and said, where are they on this on this chart?
We have a customer in the room.
These are all made up. So
These are not real names. So clearly, you see, we put Ramsey Bolton right there. No, Ramsey. Just because you're in the same style as Ramsey doesn't mean you cause pain like he does. But because any style can be misused, right? So any strength can become a weakness. And so it mapped it, and they thought, this will help us understand what our customers need from us. If we can adjust our styles, they'll be happier, to Yvonne's point.
And just to point out, we didn't actually do these assessments with the clients. These were team guesses at where we thought our clients would be based on their past behavior and based on our interactions with them. And so I think we tried to take it to the next level where we're not just looking at interpersonal in the office, but also now with other humans who happen to be clients.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're discovering our work styles, right, and how they map with each other and how they map with our clients. And the natural question is, like, why? Why are we even here to work together, right? What's our purpose? What's the point? So that's kind of why we decided we're going to do the next workshop. We didn't go into we went into this thinking, oh, we have issues, we have conflict, we need to resolve it. We did those 2 questionnaires, we did the assessment, we figured out how we work together, and the natural thing was like, okay, so we're working together, we're going to figure this out. Why are we doing this again? So we kind of thought this would happen. We kind of thought we'd also go into the whole values discussion, but we didn't know we'd end up doing a number of workshops. As an owner and as a part of the team, I had to have complete trust in the people that I was handing this over to, and I did, and it was really easy for me to do that, but I had to trust the process. And I think if you don't have that buy-in with whomever you're working with, you're not going to be as effective as you possibly could. And so, what did we do in the second workshop to figure out why we're doing what we're doing? So I think Eric's probably the best person to talk about that.
Yeah. So in the second workshop, the big thing was we asked the team to help Yvonne clarify purpose. It's a super scary thing for somebody who started this company in their basement in Richfield to say to these people, what do you think? Why do we exist? What is our higher purpose? I know you're all here for more than just the paycheck. And because of that discussion, because of the exercises we did, they were able to clarify why they existed. And why is that so important? We leaned on, you may have seen it, it's one of the most popular TED Talks of all time. If you haven't, I'd advise spending the 17 minutes and 8 seconds, I think, that it takes to watch it. It's by Simon Sinek. And he talks about this concept of the golden circle. And what it basically says is every organization knows what they do. 100%. They know what they do. They know that they write code. They build websites using Drupal. You guys knew that before we talked, I assume.
Yep.
Some even know how they do it, whether it's their proprietary method or maybe some values that they have. Some kind of understand that. That's great. But very few organizations know why they do what they do. But those that do, and then they weave that why, and they weave their purpose into everything and become a more purpose-driven organization, those are the ones that attract the kinds of customers that match their organization, that become their greatest promoters, that refer them to other clients who are also like them. People buy why you do, not what you do. There are lots of other web development firms out there, but why is what's going to differentiate you. So, an example is I actually threw it in my bag so it wouldn't buzz here, but I have an iPhone, an Apple iPhone. And why do I have an Apple? Is it the best technology? I'll just throw that out there. Is it the best technology?
Maybe.
Sometimes they're playing catch up, right? Maybe they design it in a simple way, but I buy Apple probably more because of what it says about me. I probably like to be seen as somebody who has Apple products. So why really matters. People will be attracted to work with you. So we asked the team to say, why does TEN7 exist? Everybody on the team wrote their own version of essentially a why statement for TEN7. They shared them. We discussed them. There were aspects of each that matched. There were some differences. That provided a lot of great dialogue, a lot of opportunity for reflection and debate amongst the team. So back to that point when we said trust, conflict, commitment. But by talking about the kind of, and having some productive conversations, that's conflict. That's productive conflict that we were able to have and practice as a team so that when they did land on their why, they were committed to it. So it's a really powerful thing to be a part of and to watch. So the why really matters.
And the other thing that we did so that we weren't in an echo chamber was to actually ask clients that we've worked with in the past. Small clients, big clients, great clients, not so great clients, Ramsey Bolton clients. We wanted to find out what they thought. So we did a customer satisfaction survey. And we tried to ask as many of those humans as possible. And we hoped for honest answers. And it was mostly a standard survey that Employee Strategies did for us. But then we worked together to add a couple of differences, a couple of additions and things that we wanted to ask about ourselves. And so we leaned on trust and we leaned on the commitment to having some good discussion and some conflict to come up with what those questions were. And so that's a screenshot of that day when we actually reviewed that and came up with what those additional questions would be. We ended up asking 36 people using a SurveyMonkey email. 25 of them responded, which is more than 60%. It was just really flattering. It was amazing to see that there was so much engagement from all of them. And I think it really spoke to what we were trying to achieve. And so the next couple of slides here are actual results of two questions we asked. One that has good, touchy-feely, positive feelings to it, and the next one that maybe doesn't, and that allowed us to kind of focus in on what we could do for improvement. And since Eric's team created these, maybe you can speak to these questions.
One thing we always try to do is force force people to make choices between different options. And we ask a question like this: what 3 words would you use to describe TEN7? By forcing people to only pick 3 words, they have to be really selective, and they have to really think and reflect about what is it that I experience with TEN7 that I want to tell them about. And so these were the most common responses in their responses to that question. Friendly really standing out the most. There's, as I mentioned before, anytime you have a strength, and friendly is certainly a strength for an organization, it can become a weakness. So the weakness of friendly would be maybe you get walked all over sometimes by your clients. Maybe Ramsey Bolton finds his way into your heart or into your client list. So these are the items that came out of that, and that can inform a better discussion about who you are and why you exist and what value you offer.
Was that chosen from a list that you provided, or was that free?
That's free
Just
form.
short answer.
Yeah, they're common words that came up in all the answers that were responded to in the survey.
Mm-hmm. Which makes that to me even more powerful that they would pick that word came out.
Yeah, I still can't believe that there was that much overlap between these different organizations.
But it speaks to the consistency with which TEN7 shows up to their clients and their partners. So it's pretty cool. A second question we asked is, what is the most important thing TEN7 needs to do to be positioned for future growth and success? We asked this question because it helped us understand what we would need to do to grow. So how do we, if we're going to grow, what would clients want to buy more of from us? And it's not from necessarily a product standpoint, but more of like a how you experience us standpoint. And for some of you, if you're not familiar with a Wordle, basically the way to interpret this is the bigger the font, the more people said it. So it's really, so you can tell that expand services was much lower on the list than increase staff.
And to that point, increased staff is almost the same as more developers, which is almost the same as designer on staff. And there's one more here that retain staff as well.
Yeah, consistent staff.
And so not only were we taking on too much, and I was saying yes to too much, it meant that we had too much to do and not enough people to do it, but our clients were saying the same thing. So it was and is obviously an issue. What is the next slide? Okay. So we end up on our why statement. By working together, we accomplish incredible things. And this is the reason we exist. It's got 2 parts to it that are important. The first one is the collaboration aspect, working together. And it's not just working together internally at the office. It's working together with our clients. It's working together with our community. It's overarching being able to collaborate. And the second part is being interested in collective success. One of the things that came out of the surveys that we did of ourselves was that collective success was much more important to us as an organization than individual success. And so by working through all these different statements, these are the words that describe our why statement. And it's it is the basis of why we exist. And I can say that wholeheartedly because it's not something I came up with. It's something that everyone contributed to. So it's more meaningful that way.
In fact, in the process that we went through, Ivan got to go last. So he got to share what he thought his why statement was for TEN7 last, and the team essentially created this. And what I find powerful about this is where it shows up in TEN7 now, and how it has become a bit of a North Star for the team. And if you're the kind of firm or you're the kind of person that values collaboration, working together, and accomplishing great things, this is the kind of organization you want to work with.
So how do we implement this, right? So these are all nice, touchy-feely words. Yes, we want to do incredible things, but how does it actually manifest itself in day-to-day life, right? So in August of last year, we go through another workshop. And this is the workshop where we actually decide that we're going to set our standards based on our why statement. What do we value, and how do we live it? And we have another workshop slide.
Mm-hmm. This one is almost even more disorganized, but it's not how it felt, certainly, to the team. What I would say is,
I think we were going to talk about what we did in our office.
Oh, yeah. So in that workshop, we met in TEN7's office. So it was in their space. It was the first time we'd actually gotten together to work on this stuff in their space, and we defined what does it actually look like when we have these standards. What would be what we call above the line behavior or below the line behavior? So things that are okay, that we want to see more of, things that we don't want to see quite as much. So these are the standards. This is the perimeter, as Ivan was describing it earlier.
And this is what we came up with. So we value honesty. We speak the truth even when it's bad news. We say things like, I can't, or I don't know, when we can't or when we don't know. Conversely, we don't keep things to ourselves, and we don't lie. We don't promise things that we can't deliver on. We value mindfulness. We're aware of our actions and how they affect our teammates, our clients, and our communities. We're mindful of our clients' needs for quality and timely results. We're mindful that each of us has something to contribute. Conversely, we don't ignore the needs of our teammates, of our clients, of our communities, and we don't miss deadlines or quality requirements. We also value sharing. And so sharing is more than open source. We share. We're altruists at heart. We share our expertise, our processes, our experiences to the benefit of our community, and we do so without expectation. We don't hoard knowledge or experience, and we don't create proprietary software or processes. We don't use restrictive licensing. We also value speaking plainly. We build trust by being patient translators and putting ourselves in their shoes. We help others understand what they want and need to understand for their business. And conversely, we aren't condescending, and we don't get upset when our clients ask questions or they don't understand. We will tell you when we don't think we are able to help you solve a problem. You'll notice that I read those items. I know the 4 values by heart, but those words that were chosen to describe them and how we act all came out of the process that we did and that we described. And so it's always easier to use those words in that order to truly explain what our values are. And Eric alluded to the line. How do we do this every day? We live it by using the line. So there's the line. Anything above the line is good. Anything below the line is not so good. So we want to see more things that say, that more situations in which we can say, oh, that's my mistake. I own that. That's part of our value of honesty. We want to do things like say, okay, let's do that. And we do that by asking for advice. That's part of our value of mindfulness. We're interested in collective success. So when we see that success, that's connected to our value of sharing. We want to make sure that people who have that collective success are acknowledged in some way. If you're not asking for help, that's below the line behavior. We don't want that to continue. So someone has to call it out when they see it. If you're hoarding knowledge, that's inconsistent with our sharing value. We don't want to be doing that. If you know something, share it. And whining. No whining. That's not okay. That's complaining. It's inconsistent with our honesty value. Here's an example of above-the-line behavior that happens in Slack. Lex will mention something about solving a problem by uncommenting a line of code, something that we didn't realize was such a simple solution. Tiff will say awesome, and I'll be able to say great job, ATL, above the line. And then another example is an issue I might have had with a client in the past, in which I may have gone in and been a little too eager, but have been able to correct that behavior and being able to have someone else on the team acknowledge that as well. That feels good. It's harder to talk about the below the line behavior because we make it a point to do that in person and not to do that in Slack. Slack's easy for good kudos and easy things and positive reinforcement. So what did we learn from this whole process? Well, we learned what we stand for and also what we don't stand for. We learned that vulnerability builds trust and in fact is also good for business. The more trust you have with your clients, the better it is. We learned that open source is not just about code. We always think of it as code, but it really isn't. It's about sharing our knowledge and being able to celebrate our collective success. The other thing we learned and how we've implemented it in our team is by how we bring new team members on board. And I was going to put a picture of one of our employees here, one of our team members. We're using the values that we have to make sure our team members, our potential team members, have those same values. When we decide we're going to take someone on and that they're going to come into the perimeter of our values, we're giving them the DISC assessment. We're getting them located somewhere in that circle so that we know as a team where they are and how they are best communicated with. And so they know as well how to communicate with us. How do we do this with our clients? We recently started using a project evaluation spreadsheet that WonderCrowd published and Steve Parks talked about at DrupalCon LA. We changed pounds to dollars. We made some small changes there. But when we're thinking about doing a new client, having a new project, we'll have more than one person actually evaluate the potential lead. And it's usually me, plus either a technical person or a project manager. And we're answering questions like, I know enough about the project to estimate it and write a proposal. And you can see the answers are 2 and 2, so we don't really know a whole lot. Don't really know anything except that they want a lot. And we do this as much as we can, and then there's one score that shows up. And it's not a no-go, no-go score, but it is an indicator as to how we feel about the project. Our newest member of the team is turning this into a web app that we hope to open source and have other people benefit from it. So eventually, you'll be able to answer those questions on a page and then not be influenced by your fellow evaluator. So if you see that other person's numbers, you might agree with them, whereas if you hadn't seen them, you might have a stronger opinion of your own. And so we're using this to bring new clients into the fold. The assessment we did in July of last year, we redid that assessment this year. And I'm going to let you speak to it because you know about it more than I do and how it was done. But it's interesting to me that we have data that we took last year and that we took the same data again this year to see how we compare, to see if all of the stuff we've been talking about for the last 50 minutes actually works. And why don't you go ahead and show that?
I don't know if I'm supposed to do like a drum roll.
Drum roll, yeah.
Actually happen. But yeah, so colors alone sometimes tell the story on these things. Last year we were okay. We weren't, there wasn't anything working fantastic, and there wasn't anything that was needing surgery. But I think what I love when I see this, this change. So you see the left is last year, right is this year. You can see that the team feels differently about how it works together. So the team the team feels like we have a little more trust this year. Actually, a lot more trust. That's a pretty significant increase there. The team feels like they can engage in more productive conflict. The team feels like they're more able to commit to decisions that they make together and how they work together. The team feels like they're able to hold each other more accountable, and that they get that, in all directions. And the team feels like they're more focused on results. I mean, that's, at the end of the day, what it's all about is, are we able to get the results for our clients that we need? So, I mean, I saw that, and I emailed it to Yvonne, and it was in all caps kind of email, and I said, yes, I'm yelling this. Because I didn't know, I'm not there all the time, so I don't know how it's going until you see the indicators. But I'm curious for you, Yvonne, how did it feel to see these results? And just because we started this with feelings, right?
So,
how did it feel to see these results?
So you don't know this part of the story, but when you sent the email to me, I was on the university wireless on my computer. And so I saw the words come through, but the image was missing. So I didn't know if you were yelling because it was good or because it was bad. So I had to pull my phone out, go off the wireless, go onto LTE and pull it down, and then I saw this. I'm like, oh, great!
We can do this presentation tomorrow.
Okay. We will do this tomorrow. So I was relieved because of that, but it just goes to show that actual processes and like professional involvement and books that have been written and theories that exist, when you apply them, they actually have results, and it was just great to see. And it's almost a year to the date that we've done it, so it feels like it's the right amount of time. And I can definitely attest to the fact that these things are different when I think about one of the recent projects we did. And the project was to redo our own website. And I can when I think about it, I think about the last time we did that, so it's a good comparison. This time when we did it, I had to let go and trust the team, because I played the role of client and they played the role of team and project coordinators. So there was definitely a higher level of trust from me, because I knew that they would take care of it. We certainly had a little bit of conflict in deciding exactly what all the features would be and which order they'd be released in, and I think that was a whole lot more productive as well. I could tell without a doubt that there was commitment on the team for everything to occur the way that it did, and I don't even have to talk about accountability and results. Everything was very different than the last time we did that. And I think what it sets up is where we're going in the future. Our why sets up our tomorrow, and I don't think we could have done this without knowing what our fundamental base is, what that golden circle describes, what that why statement is, what the how is, and what the what is. I feel like we've learned a lot. I feel like we've learned that there's really no right or wrong way to do business, that really you're trying to figure out what the right way is for you. We've learned that it's okay to change, and that you should probably expect that that's going to happen. I've personally learned to be more or less inflexible about what the company actually is. Yes, it's all the humans that are a part of it. It doesn't necessarily have to be all the humans in one place. So I'm slowly coming to the realization that remote and distributed is okay. And again, that's something that Todd and Four Kitchens have been talking about and doing for the last 2 or 3 years, at least openly in the community. I've also learned that you're never really done evolving, and that growing as humans, we're kind of like software. There's going to be a next version. And there's probably going to be another version thereafter, and that's okay. It's an iterative process, even for humanity. And my hope is that this encourages you to look for professional help in your own team, in your own department, in your own small company. There's no reason why you can't figure this out with some help for yourselves. And I think that's where we ended. So thank you very much for attending. I know it's been a fair amount of navel gazing, but maybe there's something that can be learned from that. Thanks. And there's donuts. So be sure to take one on your way out.
And is there questions as well for either of us? You can ask them now or hang out after the session. I'm happy to.
Can you address,
Go ahead, John.
can you address your why statement as opposed to your team's why statement and how it was different or if it was similar from that standpoint? Or
You mean when we did the...
when you did the initial and the determinant?
So I don't remember what my statement was. I remember looking at the board and at the wall where all these Post-its were up and thinking to myself, how are we ever going to come up with something that everybody agrees on? And will I like it? And I remember checking things off that were positive and that I liked about certain statements. And just thinking to myself, well, I have to remind myself I'm trusting the process and something's going to come out of this that works. And it did. And so the statement we have is mine as much as it is anyone else's now.
Okay.
Todd?
Can you give just a concrete example, one that you know isn't particularly sensitive or personal or whatever, of a problem that you were facing beforehand, and then how you would how it would be solved or how it would be approached now? You mentioned tension, for example, sort of generally. Was there like disagreement within high-level leadership, or was there like a problem team member? Or?
So, yes, okay, so one of the issues we had was timeliness and attendance. And there were repeated quote-unquote offenses, but such that there was no notice, there was no, oh, I'm going to be late, or the meeting's starting, I'm not here, I can't make it. There was never any communication with certain people, and that would slide. It would just slide, it would happen. And what I didn't know was the team felt as though I should be policing that. And I felt as though the team should be policing that it would organically happen. And it didn't. And now that we have values, we can say, oh, you weren't timely. Well, that's not mindful. That's below the line, and you didn't let anyone know, and please don't let it happen again. And it's not something that I have to do. I can do it, but any one of the other team members can point to that value and to point to the behavior and say, it's below the line. And the nice thing about that is that it's completely factual. There's no emotion associated with it. It's just a fact. This is what you did, this is the behavior, this is how it compares to what we believe. It's below the line, not cool. And then hope that there's self-correction as a result. But if you're not calling it out, it's never going to change.
And the team defined it. It wasn't Yvonne's rules coming from on high.
Mm-hmm.
It was team defined. And I think that's what gives it real power, real authority, is that we all decided this.
Yeah.
So your disc analysis has, you're missing some I's, I think. You get more T's and more S's and more C's than I's.
Mm-hmm.
So the next hiring, you're going to look for an I. Or is it a matter of the same thing?
I don't know. We don't, like, taking the disc analysis doesn't qualify or disqualify you for the team. So you don't do the disc analysis ahead of time. You do it after you're part of the team.
Okay.
And the values we have, we use as guiding principles for those people. So if there's someone we're interviewing and all they're talking about is .NET and how Microsoft CRM Dynamics is great,
Right.
and that's all they want to be doing, well then that's a red flag because it's proprietary software and maybe this person doesn't have the open source mindset in it. So that would be a comparator.
I feel like it's a small, even if you had a shop where 10 of you were, 10 people in your shop, you had 5 of them that were dominant personalities.
Yeah.
Like, there's just,
That's been luck of the draw.
Yeah.
That's been luck of the draw.
One thing that, I mean, people tend to hire people like them. That's like a real common thing. And I think one thing that tool, this tool helped the team appreciate was that, yeah, we are a certain style, but effective humans adjust their style in different situations. So if we're never, if we were sort of all south of that, in that southern region there, we just like to plan and plan and plan, and we never do or act or drive forward, we'll never get results, right? So we all have to balance each other out, even if it's not in our comfort zone. So that's how the team, I think, gets to use that tool.
And what you're also describing is that we're not all dots on that disk. There's a distribution, and that distribution around that dot describes the flexibility that Eric was talking about.
Right.
And so I'm on the disk, like right below this line on the right-hand side. But in my day-to-day, I kind of distribute in a way that actually encompasses the rest of the wedges. And they're small, but there is a distribution, and then everyone in the team has that, a similar kind of distribution. And we lucked out because we're all over the disk, and that makes for a better functioning team.
For sure.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Chris.